Hi, welcome. Today we're going to be drawing an apple using colour pencils. You'll need a set of colour pencils, a sheet of paper, an eraser and sharpener, and a graphite pencil, either a 2H or an HB, and you can either grab a real apple to draw or you can use the photo that I'll be putting up on the screen. And I won't be doing any time-lapse in today's video, so we'll just work straight through as though it's a proper lesson, so you can work with me at the same pace. And I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, and I'll look forward to seeing you after the intro. Before we start to draw the apple with colour pencils, I'd like to just go over how we're going to draw the basic shape and show you sort of the contour lines, how we're going to create form. This might just be helpful for later on, so we'll simply start by drawing our shape. And once we've got the details in, then we will be wanting to, with the grey lead, add in where we can see the reflections. But then when we come to do the colouring and we're trying to make it look more 3D, what we want to do is to have lines that will sort of come around like this. So pretty much straight up and down as you get to the middle, kind of like a fountain overflowing. And then on the other way, on the other side, it will be the opposite of that. And then in here, it will come out like that, straight towards the back, and then it will come around like that. And if you have any at the bottom, it'll sort of go like that. And then we'll have a bit of a dark shadow around there as well. So that will be the basic shape that we'll be working with. And by the way, if you can hear a gurgling noise in the background, I've got I think it's called a diffuser, happening just to add a bit of humidity to the air to help my sinuses. All right, so I'll toss that one away. And let's begin drawing the real thing. So I'll pop the fine liner away because we won't need that. And I shall grab a grey lead pencil. All right, I shall use a B one. I would suggest if you have a 2H or an HB to use one of them, or something that's even lighter than a 2H. Or whatever you have, just don't press too hard because we don't really want to see the grey lead so much towards the end. But I'll press a bit harder so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to sketch the apple. And before I do that, I want to just mention a technique that I've used with my students quite a lot over the years when we've been drawing an apple. And the technique is that you try not to name the thing that you're drawing. because when you say, I'm going to draw an apple, instantly in your brain, images of perfect apples come to mind, possibly the Apple logo, things like that, but it might just be, you know, that quintessential perfect apple with the stem and the leaf sticking out of it and a grub coming out, things that you might have learnt when you were a kid. And we want to play tricks on the mind sometimes so that we're not thinking, I'm drawing an apple, it's got to look like an apple. Instead, we want to just focus on the shapes and the textures, the tone, and so on, rather than fixating on the actual object that we're drawing. So we want to just forget in a way what we're drawing. So I often would say to the kids, well, let's call it the blobby thing. So we're drawing the blobby thing, or a blobby thing. Okay, and that way we're not thinking I've got to draw the perfect apple shape. So I'm just going to lightly sketch in the outline of the blobby thing. And I'm looking at the photo. With the kids, I would use real blobby things. So I just go to the supermarket and buy a bag of the odd bunch blobby things. And the kids would all be like, oh, Mr. Kingdom, can we eat them later? It's like, no, you don't know how many kids have touched those lately. So once we've got the outline done, we then want to do what I call the belly button. So you know how blobby things have like a dimple, a little dent in the top where the sticky thing comes out. So I just like to call it the belly button, although that might make you want to draw a real one. Okay, and then we pop in the sticky thing. So notice even just adding that little curved line already starts to create the illusion of it being a 3D object. It gives it more form. And of course, once we start colouring in and adding shading and some extra details, that will help even more with that. I can see a tiny little bug flying around, so he might feature in the video perhaps, or she. So that's the basic shape that I need, basic parts, but then I do want to put lightly vague, I think I used to call them caterpillars and slugs, just those little shapes to remind me that I'm going to leave those bits mostly white. Otherwise the temptation is when you're colouring to go over those bits and then you don't have any of those nice white reflections showing. And I might also put a long caterpillar shape there, just to remind me to leave that bit a bit white as well, and I can rub those bits out later. And I also want to put in where the shadow will be. This photo, it doesn't have a really big shadow like some might have. So we've got the really dark smiley shadow. It's like a smile shape under here. And I might just add in a bit more of a shadow out there that will be fairly pale. So I'll just make that a bit darker so that you can see it, hopefully. Let's go over some of those bits, just in case you couldn't see them before. But you want to press as lightly as you can. You don't want to be able to see yours too much. All right, so there is my basic drawing to start with. Now I don't need the grey lead anymore. And we're going to start using colour after I have a sip of peppermint tea, which is Mr. Kingdom's staple tea. It does get a bit boring at times. Much rather have a coffee, but I shouldn't have too much. Okay, so we want to build up layers with the colour pencils. And when I was a kid, I didn't realise that you could really build up layers upon layers with the colour pencils. And later, when I was at uni, we were taught how to draw, like we drew stuffed birds and different things, and my lecturer talked about actually starting with a base colour and then building upon that with layer upon layer so that you can get some really rich colours. Now I just need to grab a couple of extra bits of paper from behind me. Just so that I've got, excuse the noise of the chair as I slowly roll back into place. All right, that'll just help the paper to pick up the pencil better. Now, what we want to do is to grab a yellow. I've got lemon yellow. I'll just show you the set of pencils that I'm using. And it's simply the Derwent Academy set, which is great for beginners. But they are really good quality, in my opinion, when you're starting out. And that set, so there's 24 pencils, and they sell at Kmart, at least here in Melbourne, for $19 or $20. Big W, Officeworks, it's around that price. So quite cheap for Derwent pencils, and a nice one to get if you're just starting out. Obviously it'd be nice to have bigger sets with more colours and so on, but this is a good economical way to start. Now what we want to do with the yellow, just make this a bit neater. There we go. Oops. Okay, what we want to do with the yellow is to simply do diagonal pencil strokes without going over the caterpillars and slugs. We don't want to go into the shadow. This is going to be our base colour for the rest of the blobby thing. So nice uniform diagonal pencil strokes with the yellow. You could use a warmer yellow if you've got one as well. It also depends on the particular blobby thing that you're drawing. And I'll go over the sticky thing as well, the yellow. And then I won't need the yellow again for a while, but I am going to use it again. So we're going to use 3 colours to start with. And then we're going to use those 3 colours again, building up layer upon layer. So we will come back to the yellow after we've used the 3rd colour. And then we're going to introduce 1 or 2 mystery colours. And at that point, my students will go, ooh, what could it be? So we need to get green next. And you might not need to use much green at all. Just looking for my sharpener. I find this Statler, I don't know how you say it, Statler, sounds like a Muppet, Statler sharpener is a good one. It's always annoying when you get a bad sharpener that just mangles the pencils. Okay, just pop it over there. So have a look at the blobby thing and just see if there are any parts where it looks a little bit greenish. And I can see around the belly button area there's just a little bit of green in there. Obviously with some blobby things you'll use a lot more green, especially if you're drawing a Granny Smith. But I like drawing particularly Royal Gala. I think this one I'm drawing is probably a Royal Gala blobby thing. and because they have stripy bits on them, and that's, when you're practicing drawing, that's a good thing to have, all those extra details. If you just had a Granny Smith blobby thing that was just green all over, then you won't get to practice some of the other skills that we want to practice. Okay, so I'm just pressing fairly lightly, looking to see if there's any other just faint little bits of green. It's okay to name the colours, otherwise you'll get very confused. Okay, that's probably enough of the green, so we didn't need that for much. And I'm just looking at this particular blobby thing and thinking, like, normally I would just use yellow, green and red, but I'd actually like to bring in a bit of orange. I think that might be handy. This is not the mystery colour, but let's revise things and say, okay, we're going to use 4 main colours for this particular blobby thing. I just think a bit of orange would be good. But now here, with the orange, I do want to start curving my lines, even though it's faint, because it's darker than the yellow. And if I do diagonals, it's going to interfere with the curved lines that I want to emphasize as we go on. So I'm just adding a bit of this one. Actually, I just realized I do have a lighter orange. I didn't see that before, so I'm going to switch and we'll pretend that that didn't happen. That's better. Okay, sometimes when you're talking, you get distracted and don't notice things properly. So just a bit of orange. I don't need to bring it across the whole way because I do want my red to be more red as I go over. And if you wanted an area to be very red, like a cool bluish, purplish kind of red, then you might not want to put yellow as your base colour over in those spots. You could even use a little bit of pale blue or something in those areas, because the yellow will impact things a little bit. It will change the colour of the red slightly. But the idea is that we want to get rid of any white bits that are there that we don't need to see later on. Okay, that's probably enough of the orange. And now I can go to my red. This one is just called red, so nothing fancy there. Just give it a bit of a sharpen. Now what we're trying to do today, we're not particularly trying to make it look like a photo. If that happens, brilliant. But yeah, sometimes we can put too much pressure on ourselves, especially when we see artists that love to do photorealistic artworks, even with colour pencils or grey lead. And we think, oh, that's what we've got to aim for. But I think a lot of us that see those things, like, we really respect the skill. And we think, that's incredible. And wow, how much time did that take? And it looks like a photo and you get all excited about that. But at the end of the day, we're artists and we're creative people. And if you decide, I want to actually express myself in my artworks a bit more, show that it's made by a human and that it's not just something where people think, oh, that's just a machine doing that, then don't stress about making it look exactly like a photo. It's okay to have some wispy bits and to bring in your own style and so on. But the techniques we're looking at today will help you to make it look more 3D and so on. All right, so with the red, it is a bit darker than the orange. And so again, we do want to do our curved lines. Looking at the photo while we do this, just in case there's any areas where we might have little bits of yellow showing through that we don't want to go over too much. So I'm not going to make it as strong on the right side. And hopefully the photo when it's on YouTube will look like it'll be around the right way. So anyway, whichever side is more yellow and lighter, that's the side where we don't want to add as much red. And as we get towards the top, we want to be even more careful, because that's when more of the yellow and little bits of green are going to show through in those spidery, stripy bits. Okay, so I'm coming up to one of the caterpillars and slugs. Maybe that's a caterpillar and their slugs. It's nothing worse than pulling up pot plants and putting your finger on a slug. It's like, oh, disgusting. Anyway, we'll move on. Think of happier things. Okay, so now we want to do those curvy lines that we had before. So remember these, it's like an overflowing fountain or a daddy long legs with more legs than necessary that's been sitting in the rain for too long. Okay. So the red lines will be more straight up and down, not necessarily perfectly straight up and down towards the middle, and then they'll spread out that way and that way as we move around. Again, we're just pressing lightly at the moment. You could probably just launch straight into pressing hard with all the colours, but I find that doing it lightly and then repeating the colours, it gives you time to actually be observing the object you're drawing more, whatever it is, rather than rushing in and getting to the end and thinking, oh, I actually overlooked this bit, or I wish I had taken a bit more time to plan things out. So it's almost like we're doing a draft at the moment, but the draft is going to be part of, or a rough copy. So it's going to be part of the final artwork, but it will be a bit more hidden. So we do want to go neatly with it, as neatly as we can. But I'll also add that if you are wanting to have that more whimsical, slightly wispy, hairy, spidery kind of look with your artworks, then you don't need to make it so tight as what I'm going to do. I don't tend to have that whimsical style or spidery style with my artworks. I'm happy to have a go and try different styles that don't go too far away from what I like doing, but yeah, generally, as if you know my artwork, it's pretty precise. But I don't try to push it to the extreme where you can't, when you get up close, tell the difference between it and a photo. I mean, I do have people say to me when they see my artwork from a distance, oh, it looks like a photo. And that's always nice. But then when they get up close, they'll realise, oh, it is a drawing. You can see the rhythm of the pen work, or you can see the pencil strokes and so on, which I always enjoy when I'm in an art gallery, when you're at a distance and an artwork just has that real wow factor, and it looks quite realistic, but then you get up close and you can see the brush strokes and things, and it's nice to celebrate the fact that it is an artwork, it is a painting, celebrate the medium. And I think the reality is that with enough training, most people could be able to do those photorealistic artworks if they had the time and the patience and all that. It's a technical thing. So don't think just because you don't want to do it that you're copping out or something. or whatever, or you've never made it if you can't do that. Just focus on what is most important to you in your artworks. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that as my base layer. And now we get to bring in the same colors again. I'm sort of debating, do I bring in the mystery color now or do I hold off? And you can experiment. You could do a couple of these and work out whether the mystery color would be better to come in as part of the drafting process, the initial stages, or whether you do it a bit later. Okay, but let's just launch straight back into the yellow for now. This time with the yellow, we do want to press harder. And I might actually use two yellows. I've got a medium yellow, which is a warmer yellow. And I've got the lemon yellow, which is a cool yellow. So remember, colors come in cool and warm versions. This one makes me feel cheerful. This one's kind of a happy one as well, but it's a bit more cool. It's kind of the difference between winter sunshine and summer sunshine, if that makes sense. Not exactly, but hopefully you see what I mean. Okay, but this time, because I'm making the yellow stronger, I'm pressing harder, I don't want to do the diagonal lines. I want to now curve the lines around, and I want to place the yellow, pressing harder, just where I need it. I don't need to go over the whole thing again this time. So wherever I think I need that stronger yellow showing through, I can pop that in. And I'll particularly use the lemon yellow up the top, because that looks like a cooler yellow. And a bit over here. And you can vary the steps. If you want to start colouring inside the caterpillars and slugs as you do the layers, you can do that, or you can save it to the end. So I'm just giving you like a basic idea of where you can go with this, and then you can decide. It'll be a bit like those books that I never actually read. They were very popular when I was a boy at primary school, the Choose Your Own Adventure books. So this could be like a Choose Your Own Adventure artwork, where you get to choose which path you'll take at different stages, following the same principles and using the same elements. Okay, so I want to press lighter at the sides. It's starting to come more alive now, becoming fresher, more vibrant, like something you'd actually like to pick up and eat, rather than, oh, who left that in the fridge? And I will just add some more of that onto the sticky thing. And now I'm going to add some of the warmer yellow. That makes me feel warmer. You might notice I'm kind of doing, how would I describe it? Narrow, thin, oval shapes, or circular motions, but it's narrow, ovally motions, like that. So there's different ways. You don't just have to do lines. You can do more like that as well. Just experiment, see what works. You could even do cross-hatching where you do it like that. I don't tend to do that style much with my artworks. I don't know why, but I do find doing the lines this way, it actually helps to create that 3D effect. So just look to see where the warmer yellows are. A little bit around the edge here as well. I think the birds outside know that spring is on its way in Melbourne. Just a few more weeks and then it will be spring. I've got tulips and daffodils and Dutch irises and freesias that are springing up. The freesias have got buds on them. I imagine a couple more weeks and they'll be blooming, which will be lovely. And I got them from my grandma several years ago, and they've been spreading. So it's a lovely reminder of my grandma when they come up each spring. The fragrance is lovely, although I don't like too many in the house because it can set the allergies off a bit. But I do love the fragrance. All right, so I'll lay down the yellows for now. I might need to pick them up again at the end if I want to touch up a few bits. I'll go back to the green and just see if I need to add any more in, and maybe just the tiniest little bit in there, but don't need to add much of the green at all. Go to my orange and I'll add some of that in on this side where it's more yellowy orange, where it's warmer. The other side is more cool and more red. And I could even start adding in some of the blotches on the blobby thing over here, particularly if I don't want to go full on dark red or whatever around those areas. It can be a way of doing it a bit lighter, or I could just press really lightly with the red. But it's nice to have a bit of variety as well in there. A little bit up there, a little bit up the back. I've got lots and lots of seeds waiting to be planted. I've got some of those sort of portable hothouse kind of shelves that you can get online fairly cheaply. They're just covered in clear plastic. But I just need to find the time. Like all of us, it's hard to find the time for those extra things. Okay. Now onto the red. Nice and sharp, that's good. And I'm going to start over here. I don't want to go too strong at the very edge because there is a reflection of light on there. So I'm going to move across just a bit to start with. Definitely want to make sure you're curving your lines around here. And I can go pretty much up to the caterpillar or slug, but not too dark. I want to sort of gradually get into there later. Now I could press a lot harder there. Sometimes you just got to think, no, come on, let's just go for it. Curve them around as you come down. Now So it's checking to make sure I wasn't smudging everything with my hand. Sometimes when you move across, you can start to get a bit smudgy. So you might want to put a bit of tissue paper or something under your hand to protect the artwork. Unless you're just seeing it as a quick activity to do and you don't care. But you might like to stick it in a little frame. So we're pretty much straight up and down in the middle, but we don't want to go too dark at the bottom, because what we find is with round objects that the light is reflected off the surface that the object is on, and it will reflect at the base of the curved object. So we might think, oh, it will always be darkest right at the bottom, but often it can be just a little bit lighter. All right, so coming around here as well, doing those circular kind of narrow ovally motions. Go back over it. And I will need to come in darker again. If you were doing a pink lady blobby thing, then you'd have little dots all over the place. And you don't necessarily need to use black or brown for the dots. You could use red. You could use some orange as well. You could use some green for them and vary it. Okay, when I get up to the top, I need to look carefully at the shapes. Not that you need to copy things exactly. You could just do more of an impression of the blobby thing. But I do like to try and replicate the details as best as I can. The little fly is back. I don't know if it's a tiny fruit fly or what it is, but anyway, there's not a lot of fruit in the house. It could be a veggie fly, if such things exist. Anyway, it's very friendly. Go away. Not so, oh, there it is. Not so friendly as me. At least it hasn't been swimming in the peppermint tea yet. All right, looking at the top, I don't want to go too dark, but a bit darker, and I want to bring those lines around. Oops, a little mistake as a loud vehicle went past. I'm highly distractible. Little fly, please. Just I was thinking of the line from Ever After, where the stepmom says to one of the servants when they come back, I think it was Maurice, he comes back, he's been brought back from slavery, and she goes, "Go catch a chicken." So, little fly, go catch a chicken if you can. Some little marks. So now we want to have more blotches and things with the red over this side. And I need to encourage myself to press harder. Actually, if I sharpen, that will be easier. Yeah, that's better. A sharp pencil will really help with that. So little lines and specks and blotches and blobs for the blobby thing. So it's definitely looking more 3D now. But I do need to really start pressing harder for those deeper red bits. Still being careful to curve where I need to. Just go over any bits where you've got that disjointed area where you've done some shapes and then the next. Leave some little bits of yellow and orange showing through here as we gradually move across. It's a nice sunny morning here in Melbourne so far. It's a Saturday morning. And I'm trying not to sneeze. I've been trying to work out what has been causing my sinuses to get congested for the last couple of years. I'm on the low histamine diet, which is extremely boring, not for the faint-hearted. And I steam cleaned the whole house recently, all the old carpets. And my latest theory is I wonder if the house is just too dry, if the air is too dry and it needs more moisture. Because if you're working from home a lot and you've got the heater on a lot of the time, I'm sure it just sucks the moisture out of the humidity out of the air. So that's why I've brought in my little gurgling diffuser thing with a touch of lavender oil in it. Hoping that might help things a bit, but we shall see. It'd be nice to be able to just scan yourself with the machine and it tells you exactly what the problem is and what the solution is. Although it might tell us more than we'd like to know. Okay, now I need to have a look up here and do some more streaky bits. Some of you are probably thinking of streaky bacon, which would be nice on a Saturday morning. Bacon is not on the low histamine diet or any smoked food. It'll be nice to get to heaven. The Bible says that there will be a great wedding feast to come. So I know there'll be food, and there's the tree of life in heaven that we're told about in Revelation with fruit on it. So I do plan to eat in heaven, and I'm looking forward to bringing gluten back on the menu. I think there'll be a lot of us in heaven that will be heading over to the pastries table, which I wouldn't mind a lasagna, that'd be nice. Can't have tomatoes either. But I'm thankful that I still have food in the fridge and in the cupboards. And I can eat porridge. So I doubt oats are okay. So that's been nice. Porridge with blueberries on. Alright, now I'm going to look at the really darker red area and just go over that again. Trying to make a more solid area of red. But there is a point where you can't go any darker than what the pencil will allow you to. So that's where we need to bring in the mystery colour. Alright, so let's bring in the mystery colour. And I wonder if you know what it might be. It could actually be a variety of things. I am going to use purple. And it is just called purple. I don't know if I've actually used this one yet, judging by the height of it and the sharpness. So I'm going to use the purple for the shadowy bits, for the darker bits. You could choose to use a really dark blue. You could use a dark brown. You could also use black. You could use a variety of those things as well if you want to. Using purple or blue, even though you don't instantly look at the photo or the object, the blobby thing that you're drawing and go, oh yeah, I can see blue or purple. It helps to create a bit more vibrancy. So it's nice to actually bring in just a touch of some other colours and sort of freshens it up a bit. So I don't want to go right to the very edge again. I don't want to lose that bit of reflected light. This will also help to, hopefully, add a bit of coolness to this side of the red part. So I don't want to overdo it, but I would like it to just look a little bit darker on that area. And I'm going to bring up the purple in this area as well. Just a little bit across here. And I'm going to add it in the belly button area, just down the very base of it. Or you could use dark brown in there if you want. I'm going to add a bit of it onto the stem. I will add some brown. Ooh, I called it by its name. The sticky thing. I will also add some brown onto the sticky thing. But I like that little bit of purple there. It just adds a bit of pizzazz. Makes it a bit snazzy. That word always makes me laugh. I remember the first time I heard a teacher when I was in year 7 use the word snazzy. It's like, wow, what's that word? Haven't heard it for quite a while now. I think her name was Mrs. Snowden, and she taught us geography. So this sounds like an appropriate name for a geography teacher. I'm going to use the purple to add in the darker markings, blotchings, and squiggles on the blobby thing. Oh, there's the delightful barking dog. It's back. Hopefully it was just quickly barking at a passing car, and that's it. I'm sure dogs will talk normally in heaven, just speak to us in our own language. They'll probably have done away with barking by then. Or it will just have a nice soothing sound. I am going to use the purple just a little on the edge over here. I might just rub that back a bit actually. Sometimes you try things and then you think, not sure. And it doesn't mean you're a bad artist, it means you're an explorer and an adventurer, and you learn from mistakes. Just having another quick look to see if I need to add in any more blotchy bits. Just a few more here and there. And let's get some brown happening. Maybe I can use the, so I've got, looks like brown to me, garnet red. Let me test that. That's a weird colour. It's like, is it brown? Is it red? I think that could be useful in part of the sticky thing. I've got a little hairy bit sticking off there. There we go. Goodbye. Oops. Now I just smudged my paper. Oh well, it's just practice. I'm going to use a dark orange over on the rest of it. Just add a bit more warmth and colour. And a bit more down there. And maybe a tad in the belly button. So we're nearly there. Now I'm going to give the caterpillars and slugs some attention. Just going to rub back to get rid of the grey lead. You could even try doing the colouring first and then rubbing back into it, but chances are you won't get the really vibrant white happening. Going to bring back the red. It's not the red. I'm just going to press lightly and bring it in over certain parts, but leave bits of white. And you'll notice when we're finished just how important those little reflections of light are, how they lift things. It will bring the surface more to the front and help it to look more 3D. And it will give it a bit of sparkle. it's not actually very obvious over this side. But you can exaggerate things a bit if you want to. And I don't need to do anything much up there. I might just add in a couple of little more splotches and things. I need to rub that a little bit out. Sometimes your hand just does things where it's like, what did you do that for? I didn't tell you to do that. It's probably saying, I want a coffee. Well, I still only have decaf because I'm far too sensitive for the real thing. But I do have organic fair trade decaf coffee, and it's actually really nice. And not too expensive. Now I need to grab the yellow again, just to bring a bit more yellow in to parts of that reflected area. Yeah, that's good. Check if I want to bring any more yellow, a bit stronger in a few places. Might actually. So I'm just looking at it and thinking a bit of brown, or maybe this one, maybe a bit of orange in there. Bring that down just a little, just so that they don't look like they're too distinct from each other. We're almost there, and it's almost my coffee time. And I wish I could say I was going to eat a lovely slice of lemon meringue pie or a Bakewell tart or what are my other favourites? Sticky date pudding. But I'm just going to have a bit of boring old seed bread that I've made with some butter. I can have butter, thankfully, grass-fed. Well, they feed the cows grass, and then the butter pops out. But and I'll put some raw local honey, so it's not too bad. But I can't even get store-bought bread that fits in with the low histamine diet, which is annoying. But thankfully it's temporary. All right, now you don't need to hear about my diet anymore, or at all. I'm just going to bring a little bit more of the stronger red in places down the bottom. And I'm going to use the purple again for the shadow. I will bring back our old friend, the diagonal pencil strokes. I'll just fade it out, so I'll lift up my hand slightly to decrease the pressure as I go across. And I'm going to then keep going across just lightly. Oh, the little fly is back. Oops. My screen just went to sleep. It's probably an indication that I've been talking for way too long. But in a way, I could speed things up, but I prefer you just to be able to do the artwork while I'm doing mine, so that you can see the pace and not miss out on any little bits of information along the way. So it's just like a proper lesson. That we do together. And And now I can just go in a bit harder, trying to get that crisp edge down the bottom, and then go back over that bit. Diagonals. So we've got the strong purple there, but we can bring in another colour. So I'm going to think, okay, what colour would I like the background? And I might choose, what is this? Rose. That sounds nice. So I'm going to just lightly and fairly quickly do a bit of a colour in the background. You could go over it a second time, or you could even add a third colour there if you want. And I'm going to go over the shadowy area. Coming over here. Oops, that was a bit harder. And just sort of round off the edges, unless you want to go right to the edges of the paper. Just to neaten it up a bit. Then I'm going to use the rose colour and press a bit harder in the shadowy area as well. Pressing a bit less as I move across. And I'll go in here as well and go over that a bit stronger. And I would like to bring in a bit of, should I do black? Yes, I'll add some black in. Some people don't like using much black in their work. The Impressionists seem to despise it often. But I think black is nice. So just in that dark smiley shadow area, that'll help to give the whole thing a lift. That's a strange sounding dog. And I'm going to look and see if I might use the black anywhere else. Maybe just a little touch. Just up here. Maybe a little bit in the belly button area. Just a tiny bit there. There's a little kid talking to the dog, so that often will set them off. And maybe I'll just bring a bit of the rose in around here where I don't want the shadow, so that reflected light bit to be too yellow. Just bring that in there. Come right to the edge and down. Bring it in here a bit as well. Could even add some over there. So just play around to finish with. Excuse me. And bring a bit on the top, but not too much. Just neaten up those edges a bit. We'll use this just on the edge here. So make it a bit more crisp on the edge. I do want to just bring in a little bit more of the orangey colour up here, so a bit more warmth, and some more over there, and tiny line around the edge of the sticky thing, and a little bit going up there, a little bit of shading in there. And let me just check the camera to make sure it's in view properly. It'd be awkward if it wasn't at this stage. And I think we are pretty much done. I'm just looking at the shadow, and I might just bring that down slightly. Get the rose over there as well. All right, are we done? I think we're done, and I'm trying not to sneeze. Excuse me, excuse my sniffle. Well, there is the blobby thing, which we may now again call by its rightful name, the Royal Gala apple. At least I think it's a Royal Gala. I hope your apple, your blobby thing, has been successful as well, and you might like to try doing a few of them with the same picture, but one of them might be with cross-hatching instead of the curved lines. One might be quite tight and focused, one might be more whimsical and loose. You could play around with different mystery colours and things like that. And I'd love to see what you produce. So feel free to get onto my website and email me some photos. And yeah, it'd be nice to see what others are doing as well. And I hope that you have enjoyed drawing the blobby thing today. And if you have any suggestions for what we could draw or even paint in future videos, anything you'd like some advice on, some tips on, then please let me know in the comment section, or you can email me. And if you like this video, please click the like button, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please subscribe to my channel and share the video with others that might be interested. And also remember that I have my Instagram account that you can follow me on, which is, I guess, hashtag or at Robert Kingdom Art. That's one word. And then there's my Zazzle store. So if you type in Robert Kingdom into the search bar in Zazzle, whatever country you're in, you'll be able to find a whole bunch of my products that you can print off onto different things, such as greeting cards and mugs and tea towels, tote bags, aprons, even skateboard decks. So check that out as well. And I look forward to seeing you next time, once I have thought about what I'll do next, and done a bunch of other things as well in the meantime, such as more gardening and cleaning. Anyway, enough chatter, and I hope you have a good day or a good night, and we'll see you next time.